My name is Hallie. I'm incredibly excited to be introducing you all to the Ether bulb under the Internet of Things prompt. Before we begin, I do want to thank the SureStart program coordinator and floating mentors, Tanya, Oscar, and Salma in particular, for all that they've done and for supporting us throughout this process. I'd like to take a moment to introduce you the Ether team. There are 4 of us, as you can see: Jessica, Kayla, myself, and Vitaly. We have spent the last several weeks working together and are quite enthused to see it amount to this. I'd also like to thank our mentor, Kevin, who was greatly contributory in guiding the team and lending his insights towards our learning process as well as leading up to the Makeathon. This wouldn't have been the same without him. In our presentation today, we will be moving through the 4 stages listed here. So first, we'll be discussing the issue that we decided to address, then the solution we came to, its marketability in competitive terms, and then the roadmap that we have in mind for moving forward with it. With that being said, Kayla will be taking it from here.
Due to COVID-19, we have seen an increase in online schooling and at-home work. We found that about 45% of people working from home as a result of the pandemic work longer hours than they would under normal circumstances. During this time at our desks, we were bound to experience a wide range of emotions. Serious stress, anxiety, frustration often impede our abilities to effectively work. And as a result of the pandemic, mental health has plummeted in many demographics across the United States. Also, about 35 million Americans suffer from migraines, with 80% to 90% of these people citing light sensitivity as a main issue. In addition, with 10 to 20% of the population suffering from seasonal affective disorder, our team wanted to create a product that might help alleviate these symptoms. Let's take a look at a potential user of the Ether bulb. She spends all day at her desk, suffers from chronic migraines, light sensitivity, and unproductivity with heightened emotions such as frustration, anxiety, and sadness. Using our product, people like her would be able to alleviate some of their symptoms and have a better work from home life. As for the marketability of a product like this, I will pass off to Jessica.
So our team surveyed members of our community to seek their opinions on the effects of emotions on their own productivity. This survey was rather comprehensive, reaching 67 survey responses in 4 continents across a large age range. In particular, we asked for the frequency in which they experienced the following emotions: anxiousness, anger/frustration, and sadness. We found that over 75% of respondents experienced the anger/frustration or anxiousness emotion frequently or somewhat frequently while working at a desk space. Similarly, we found that over 50% of respondents experienced sadness frequently or somewhat frequently. When asked if these emotions impede their ability to be productive at a desk space, the vast majority of respondents responded yes for all emotions. Anger had the strongest effect at 77.6% of the respondents agreeing that it impacted their productivity, while sadness had a least strong effect, with 64.2% of respondents agreeing the same thing. From these survey results, we can see that our respondents strongly believe that their emotions impact their productivity at desk space, and that these emotions are frequently or somewhat frequently experienced.
Our product focuses on 2 main types of therapy as it pertains to light. The first, light therapy, has been used as a treatment for seasonal affective disorder. It's thought to affect chemicals in the brain that are linked to sleep and mood. It's also important to note that strong saturated lights tend to amplify emotions, while dimmed muted lights achieve the opposite effect. On the other hand, color therapy, also known as chromotherapy, is the use of color to counterbalance emotions. Blue and green are calming, yellow induces happiness, orange enforces power, pink reduces emotional mental stress, and so on and so forth. Given what we've just laid out, our team posits that there is an evident need for some type of IoT light source, be it a desk lamp or a light bulb, to be used at home offices that integrates chromotherapy and light therapy in an effort to combat psychological and emotional effects of working long hours at home. Our solution, the Ether bulb, will be explained by Vitaly.
Our solution is to develop a smart light bulb that can connect to other devices that use computer vision to detect a person's emotional state. Introducing the Ether bulb. One of Ether bulb's features is to change colors based on emotion. As Kayla explained, yellow helps people who are sad, blue when angry, green when neutral, and orange when anxious. If there are multiple people present, the color will be neutral since people will experience different emotions, and this will solve privacy concerns. We use diverse data to consider inclusion to train our model using the convolutional network to detect emotions. Then using the OpenCV library for the face detection. Finally, we programmed the logic to change colors depending on emotion. Convolutional neural networks are composed of these layers, and the image is broken down. The OpenCV library is used to detect faces by checking the outermost layer first and then moving deeper to verify. Here is a demo of me. The colored rectangle around my face will represent the glow of light from the AIther bulb. The model detects sad, and the rectangle turns yellow, which makes me feel neutral or happy. The model detecting anger will make the AIther bulb glow blue. Since we didn't have anxious data yet, I used surprise next to supplement anxious to show that it will turn orange. Next, Jessica will show the market interest.
Yeah, so additionally, we also asked our survey respondents if they'd be interested in such a automated light bulb that adjusted to with response to the user's emotions, and 85.1% of respondents said that yes, they would be interested, or that they maybe would be interested in such a product.
We did look into potential competitors being similar products. What we found in our research was that, at least among publicly available products, there are two characteristics that make the AIther bulb distinct: emotional responsiveness and automatic adjusting, particularly via machine learning. To exemplify this assertion, we brought together 5 products in particular: the Wiz, Cree Lighting Connected Max, Yeelight Smart, Sony Multifunctional, and Helium Bulb, and we compared their features. The first 3 of these are colored smart light bulbs, which can be remotely adjusted in hue, tone, and brightness, and these are available at varying price points. The Sony Multifunctional is a smart light with the same remote control capabilities, but it is more thoroughly integrated into the home, including other smart features and a fixed hue. The Helium bulb we found was the most comparable in that it was the only product to also be self-adjusting via a machine learning model. However, it is designed to train on a person's living habits with respect to time. Ultimately, no product we could find had a directly competitive set of features, nor an exact intended purpose to the AIther bulb. With all of that being said, and with the pros and cons of these various competitors in mind, particularly the latter 2, our roadmap and intention for the AIther bulb moving forward is as follows. First, we want to implement a feature such that the bulb has auto-adjusting brightness in response to whether or not a person is squinting and in which direction they're squinting. So for example, if a person squints toward the light would dim, and if they're squinting away from it, towards, say, like an object, it would brighten. This is actually a functionality we had hoped to demonstrate for the Makeathon and was part of our original idea for this, but unfortunately we were unable to find an appropriate data set for the machine learning model in the time that we had, and likewise didn't have time to make our own. We also would like to improve the bulb's sensitivity to emotional intensity, that is, varying the hue and saturation and the rate at which the light changes depending on how strongly the user appears to be emoting. By default and in its preliminary stage, the hue adjustments are made relatively subtly in consideration of present day's productivity perspective. Yet another practical feature would be some or several forms of temporal sensitivity, meaning that the bulb would also factor in the time of day, perhaps already existing ambient daylight, the season, etc., in order to self-adjust itself and better target issues like seasonal affective disorder. Ultimately, the goal for the AIther bulb is to integrate seamlessly into a user's home or lifestyle. This would include both more exhaustive customizations, say of the color palette or frankly any of its features, as well as smart integration, such as being compatible with other smart home devices, smartphones, smartwatches, whatever kinds of objects we may find in our lives in the future, and being responsive to other kinds of control signals, such as one's voice or gestures. We believe that by pursuing this development path, the AIther bulb would be able to benefit an even wider array of people and beyond a COVID context, such that one day, like automatic car windows or digital cameras, having self-adjusting smart lighting sources would be but a normalcy. And that concludes our presentation on the AIther bulb. Thank you all for your time. At this point, we'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you, Team AIther.
I'm curious about, you're presenting this, I'm thinking about a parent wanting this light in a room with an infant or a young child that can't necessarily communicate what they're feeling. Can you can you walk me through how that would work? You know, if you had a nursery and your baby's in a crib, how might AIther work on that setting?
So the data that we train the model in, admittedly, doesn't tackle infants. So I can't say that what we currently have would be all that successful in interpreting an infant's emotions. However, looking towards the prospects of what this product could become, I think that incorporating that kind of a data set would be beneficial, and I think that would actually be a very practical use for this kind of a thing.
Yeah,
As
especially if
we
you can incorporate sound in terms of understanding emotion.
Yeah. So yeah, so what I touched on during the roadmap was that right now our product only responds to visual cues, of course, but it would be extremely beneficial to incorporate these other kinds of control signals. If we had had more time and more resources, we would have loved to do such a thing.
Thank you.
I guess one question was, how do you, and I might have missed it, but how do you visualize this product looking? So like, is it a light that you just have to kind of stare at, or, does it work? Like, because the demo I saw, you have to look right at it for it to fire off the different emotions. Will it work if it's slightly off to the side, or is this a product that you have to deliberately like stare into to have it fire off?
Yeah, I can take this question. Our intention with the product is actually to have the camera separate from the bulb itself. In fact, the ultimate goal is to incorporate our product with cameras and CV devices that already exist. So in that sense, you don't have to like turn and like pivot and stare at your light bulb for it to pick up your emotions. No matter where you are, it's going to be able to take in that data and auto adjust the light bulb for you.
Got it. Very
Unfortunately, due to resources and time, we didn't have access to a separate camera and a separate light bulb. So our demo just demonstrates it just with our camera monitor. But besides that, the ultimate goal is to have them be two separate entities that can just be infused with some other device that already exists.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
I was just curious, when you were looking to find data sets, and you said in one case you didn't find a data set, or you with the time, where were you looking, and what would it take to get such a data set? Does it exist? Was it just that you couldn't afford it, or was it, how are you thinking around data sets?
As for the data set, we had two main goals for our product. The first and the one that we were able to implement given the time period was the color adjusting via facial emotions. The second was actually to adjust the brightness via how much someone is squinting or emoting. That is the data set that we weren't particularly able to find, like a squinting versus not squinting data set. There are data sets that are eye openness data sets, but they aren't exactly what we were looking for. And if we had more time, we would have loved to create our own data set, but unfortunately, we wouldn't have been able to create a very robust data set with just the four of us, plus Kevin, our mentor. So it would kind of only have worked for the four of us. And we wanted to create a product that could encapsulate as much of the US population as possible, which is why we ended up just pivoting towards the one and hoping to implement the second solution later on.